Wondering if an Alaska cruise tour is really worth it? Well, after 6 Alaska cruises, we just spent 12 nights with Princess Cruises exploring Fairbanks, Denali National Park, and the Inside Passage, and honestly, the land portion was not what we expected. So we're sharing our honest review so you can decide if an Alaska cruise tour is right for you up next. Welcome aboard, everyone. I'm Don B from Eat, Sleep, Cruise. Now, if you're completely new to Alaska cruise tours, which are also often referred to as land and sea tours, they typically consist of 3 distinct experiences. Now, we partnered with Princess Cruises for this Alaska cruise tour, but many cruise lines that offer this package have a similar setup. A Princess Alaska cruise tour includes a stay in at least one princess-owned lodge. The cruise line actually has 5 different lodges in Alaska. Then you travel via scenic train to or from Whittier as part of Princess Cruises' direct to the wilderness rail service. Then finally, this land and sea Alaska adventure includes a 7-night one-way cruise to or from Vancouver, British Columbia. The cruise sails the popular Princess Voyage of the Glacier itinerary. Now, one of the key decisions you need to make when planning a cruise tour is determining the direction of travel. You'll either take the cruise first, then head north from Whittier further into Alaska, or complete the land portion first, with the cruise heading south from Whittier to Vancouver. As guests of Princess Cruises for this trip, we were booked on the most popular cruise tour option, the Denali Explorer. Now, if you know us, you know we're going to provide a deep dive into our experiences across all 3 portions of this Princess Cruises Alaska cruise tour, filled with our honest feedback and, of course, plenty of tips and tricks. But before we do, we wanted to start with a general overview of the entire experience, then dive into the details. First up, we did the land portion first. So we did a southbound route, starting in Fairbanks, working our way down to Vancouver, British Columbia. We spent 5 days visiting 3 different princess-owned wilderness lodges. 1 night in Fairbanks, 2 nights at the Denali Princess Wilderness Lodge, and 2 nights at the Mount McKinley Princess Wilderness Lodge in Denali State Park. Now here's what you need to know right off the bat. Staying in the lodges is definitely not like a cruise. The lodges are rustic. You're packing and unpacking every day or two, and food is not included. Or you can opt for a meal package, which is an additional charge. But all the logistics are handled by Princess Cruises, so you don't have to worry about anything. And despite some of these limitations, we had some incredible experiences. We cruised the Chena River on Riverboat Discovery, visited authentic Athabascan Village, went off-roading on ATVs with Denali National Park as our backdrop, went back in time at the Denali National Park, and enjoyed local cuisine like freshly caught king salmon. Our favorite lodge by far was the Denali Princess Wilderness Lodge. It had the best location, being just 1 mile from Denali National Park, an included tour, multiple dining options, and sprawling grounds with river walkways and fire pits. But of course, we'll dive deeper into all the lodges later in this review. Now, after 5 days on land, it was time to head to the ship. But getting there is half the adventure. Princess operates their own direct-to-the-wilderness rail service from Talkeetna to Whittier, a scenic 5-hour journey through some of Alaska's most beautiful landscapes. You're seated in a comfortable train car while your host provides narration along the way. The last hour from Anchorage to Whittier was truly the most spectacular as you hugged the Turnagain Arm with mountain, glaciers, and the autumn landscapes all around you. Finally, we boarded Sapphire Princess in Whittier around 7:30 p.m. for our 7-night Voyage of the Glacier cruise. Even though it was a 20-year-old ship, we were pleasantly surprised. The ship had plenty of outdoor viewing areas, several pools, as well as a variety of restaurants, bars, and lounges. The ship's North to Alaska program was excellent too, featuring regional dishes, local Alaskan beers and wines, as well as onboard naturalists, and yes, puppies in the piazza, along with other special activities. This cruise typically includes stops at the Hubbard Glacier, Glacier Bay National Park, as well as Skagway, Juneau, and Ketchikan, although our late season cruise was impacted by weather, which we'll talk about later in this video. But we've actually sailed on this itinerary before on Majestic Princess, and it's one of our favorite itineraries in Alaska. While Princess does own a lodge in Fairbanks, we were auto-assigned to an overflow lodge next door, the Pikes Waterfront Lodge. This hotel was our first taste of the rustic lifestyle of Alaska's interior, though the nearby Fairbanks Princess Riverside Lodge did look a bit more modern. When you book a Princess Alaska cruise tour, a lot of the logistics and scheduling is all taken care of by the cruise line. So when we arrived at the airport in Fairbanks, we were greeted by a Princess representative. She issued documentation for this leg of the journey and explained the luggage process. Soon after, we were whisked away with the rest of the group for our transfer to the hotels. We used our first full day in Fairbanks to rest up and explore the waterfront area. Alternatively, Princess did offer shuttle service into downtown Fairbanks for $10 per person. Along with accommodations in all transportation, our Princess Alaska Cruisetour included 2 complimentary tours, one in Fairbanks and one in Denali National Park. However, there's also a variety of optional shore excursions that guests could purchase in addition, just like a cruise. For instance, we took the hour-long drive to the Ketchikan Hot Springs and Aurora Ice Museum. This remote spa spans extremes, from the world's largest year-round ice environment to the warm, natural springs bubbling nearby. While the geothermal heated waters were nice, we don't really think the whole experience was worth the drive. But our real adventure began the next morning. Starting bright and early, we met our guide Stephanie for the short bus ride to Riverboat Discovery. Boarding the impressive Discovery 3, we set off on a 3-hour cruise on the Ketchikan River. With beautiful weather, a cruise on the river alone while listening to narration and witnessing the fall colors would have been a great welcome to Alaska. However, shortly after leaving the dock, we encountered a bush pilot who came over the loudspeaker to discuss the aircraft in more detail and provide a demonstration of taking off and landing. Next, we stopped at the Trailbreaker Kennel, home of 4-time Iditarod champion, the late Susan Butcher. We received a dog sledding demonstration and crash course from the kennel's current master, Butcher's daughter. The final stop included a roughly 1-hour tour of a replica of an early 20th century Athabascan village. Guided by 2 sisters, we learned about the history and culture of these First Nations people. After a quick lunch, it was back on the bus for a 3-hour journey to our next stop, Denali Princess Wilderness Lodge. This comfortable lodge overlooks the Nanana River and is just 1 mile from the entrance of Denali National Park. Like a well-oiled machine, upon arrival, a representative from the lodge came on board our bus and gave us our key room cards and itinerary for our stay at the resort. This included our tour times, when luggage needed to be placed outside, and when we would depart for the next destination. Admittedly, the towering main lodge and wooded grounds felt like a different world from the more city-like atmosphere in Fairbanks. While Fairbanks was nice, the Denali Princess Wilderness Lodge was really what we were expecting for this land and sea tour. But that afternoon, we didn't have too much time to explore, because within less than an hour, we had our next tour. So we dropped off our belongings, freshened up, and met for our second optional excursion, a side-by-side ATV adventure. Joining a group of approximately 20 other thrill seekers, we zoomed through dirt paths, creeks, and rocky river bottoms, all with the 6 million acres of Denali National Park as our backdrop. The consistent light rain did not put a damper on this exhilarating tour. In fact, it's one of our best ATV adventures to date. Back at the lodge, we did our best to quickly clean up before grabbing some dinner. Tonight we decided to try Fanny Q's Saloon. Named after the famous Alaskan pioneer, the saloon boasts a late 19th century industrial decor fitting of a boomtown, complete with an upright piano player in period attire. After a long day of touring, a local draft beer, a grilled salmon sandwich, and the blueberry bear paw dessert were the perfect ending to a memorable day. Our second day at the DPL featured another included tour, the Denali National History Tour. Our 6 a.m. departure gave us just enough time for our morning espresso from the River Run Espresso coffee shop located on the ground floor of the main lodge. Now note, unlike a cruise, food is not included in the land portion of the cruise tour. The cruise line does offer the option to upgrade to a meal plan for an additional fee, and we did see many guests using these vouchers. However, we opted to pay a la carte, and we also brought some snacks, like breakfast bars as well as trail mix, knowing that we had long touring days and didn't necessarily have time to stop for meals. Our driver and tour guide for the day was Sharon. From the moment the tour set off, I knew this one was going to be by the book, given Sharon's straightforward and no-nonsense narration and mannerisms. With overcast skies and light rain blending into background, our group of about 60 guests boarded the retrofitted school bus for the 4.5-hour tour of Denali National Park, which included 3 stops along the way. Our first stop was the bus depot for an introductory movie. This was also the last chance to use flush toilets during the tour, which we were reminded several times. From there, the bus weaved up and around the park, reaching mile 17 at Primrose Ridge, at an elevation of about 3,000 feet. Along the way, we all kept our eyes out for wildlife. We also made a brief stop at Savage Cabin for a first-hand experience of what the first visitors to the park would have experienced. At our turnaround spot, a local Athabascan cultural expert, Greg, offered an emotional reflection about his people and their connection to the land and the modern-day park. While we did enjoy some incredible vistas and the full foliage, unfortunately, we did not encounter any sightings of the Big Five, nor did we see Denali's towering peaks. Guests can upgrade to the Tundra Wilderness Tour, which ventures further into the park's interior with the primary goal of wildlife viewing. If we return to Denali in the future, we'd definitely upgrade to this tour. Alternatively, the lodge provides shuttle service to the Denali National Park Visitors Center, if you'd like to explore more on your own. Back at the Princess Lodge by early afternoon, we had some time to explore the sprawling grounds. From gift shops to a river walk, outdoor decks overlooking the Nanana River, fire pits, and organized talks, the lodge offers numerous opportunities to connect with nature. Of course, we couldn't pass up grabbing a few souvenirs and some pizza at the on-property Lynx Creek Pizza, though there are more options for dining and shopping at the nearby Glitter Gulch. Wanting to get a complete Denali Princess Lodge experience, we made dinner reservations at the sit-down restaurant King Salmon. We received a QR code with the restaurant info when we arrived, but here's another insider tip. It's possible to make reservations for this restaurant on Open Table in advance. We quickly figured out that you can also make Open Table restaurant reservations at the other sit-down restaurant, North Fork, at the McKinley Princess Wilderness Lodge. So if you're traveling during peak season, we would definitely recommend reserving ahead of time. Of the available dining options, we enjoyed the food here the most. I couldn't pass up getting the signature King Salmon entree, which had just a touch of salt for added flavor. The one thing that surprised us most about the cruise tour was the complexity of scheduling and all the moving parts. We were surprised at how few people we met at the lodges were actually doing our exact itinerary. And this wasn't just a difference between heading northbound or southbound. Guests were staying at different series of lodges, sailing on a different ship, or starting and ending in Anchorage rather than Fairbanks. Despite this constant flow of visitors, arriving and departing each destination was a smooth experience, even if the rooms weren't ready yet. After spending 2 nights at Denali Princess Lodge, we departed for our final land stop. Buried in the forest of Denali State Park is the McKinley Princess Wilderness Lodge. The approximately 2-hour bus ride to this lodge flew by. Our driver and guide, Rebecca, was a cheerful transplant who had been calling Alaska home for several years. Unlike the other 2 lodges, a stay at the McKinley Lodge does not include a tour. Instead, guests have a variety of options to head out and discover on their own, whether that be hiking one of the trails on property, taking a tour from the nearby town of Talkeetna, or just relaxing at the resort, hoping to become one of the 30% who actually see Denali. Before our trip, we opted for one of the more weather-dependent tours, a flight seeing trip of Denali. This tour was scheduled for the second day at the lodge. Arriving at MPL around lunchtime, the rooms were not ready. Thus, we had time to grab some much-needed coffee from the Coffee Brew Espresso and explore the main building. Unfortunately, our weather luck had finally run out. With mostly seasonable and cloudy weather up until now, the rain decided to dampen our stay at this resort. Thus, we opted to hold off on exploring the rest of this remote lodge. While smaller than the Denali Lodge, the McKinley Lodge felt more spread out, with several small buildings scattered across the grounds. As luck would have it, our room was in one of the cabins furthest from the main lodge, Building 21. Although, when we finally arrived at our room, we realized we were assigned one of the suites. For those who need it, there is an on-property shuttle service for the South Loop. With our luggage arriving shortly after, we changed up and headed out to dinner at the more upscale restaurant on property, North Fork. I opted for some light and airy crab fritters as an appetizer, and based on the waiter's recommendation, I went with the crab top fillet as an entree, which was a perfectly seared medium steak. This was definitely the best meal we had across all 3 lodges. Since the weather wasn't conducive to enjoying a drink on the outdoor deck overlooking the mountain, or sitting by one of the fire pits, we called it an early night. We were up a reasonable hour on the second morning of our stay to catch the 9 a.m. shuttle into Talkeetna. It was rainy and wet, and while we did have doubts about our flight seeing tour, we hadn't heard from the tour company or the lodge that the tour was canceled. After an hour bus ride and a short walk to the tour provider's office, it wasn't much of a surprise when we learned operations were canceled for the day. So a little change of plans, we headed into the small town as we waited for the next shuttle back. Lined with small shops and excursion companies, Talkeetna is really only a few blocks. So we wandered off in the rain and were able to see everything in about an hour. And while there wasn't much to see, no visit to this town would be complete without some pastries from the Roadhouse Bakery. Back at the lodge, it was time to explore despite the ongoing rain. Mount McKinley Princess Wilderness Lodge offers amenities including hiking trails and even guided walks each day with a naturalist. The Hudson Theater hosts lectures and informational talks. These talks range from in-depth discussions of local wildlife to mountain climbing. During our visit, we got to hear from Brian McCaughlin, a local guide who has scaled Denali multiple times in his decades-long career. While there are no shuttles to the park, the resort does offer shuttles to Talkeetna, $10 round trip for those who do not already have an excursion meeting in town. Taking some previously given advice, we hopped on the property shuttle to the opposite end of the Hill Trail Loop. This 1 mile loop offers some fantastic views of the lodge area and park from an oversized and stylish treehouse. Featured on Animal Planet's Treehouse Masters, it's certainly worth the walk to check it out. By taking the shuttle to the back end of the trail, it means the rest of the walk is mostly downhill. With a long travel day ahead of us, we rounded out our stay with a casual dinner at the other restaurant on the property, 2320 Alaskan Grill. My prime rib was a hearty portion, just what I needed after a long day of damp walking around the area. Of course, we saved room for the much-hyped blueberry cheesecake, which did not disappoint. Usually on cruise embarkation day, we're up bright and early to be among the first on the ship. For this Princess Alaska Cruisetour, we were still hours away from the ship, and our 5-hour train ride from Talkeetna to Sapphire Princess wasn't until 1:45 p.m. This meant that we would be among some of the last guests to board the ship. Even though we weren't leaving the lodge until 11:30 a.m., our bags still had to be packed and outside our room by 6:30 a.m. This is certainly one of the drawbacks of a cruise tour. Up and ready with time to kill, we grabbed breakfast at the grill before making our way over to the main lodge. Like much of the cruise tour, the buses were right on time, and about the 500 or so guests were ushered from the lodge to the train station. However, calling it a train station is being too generous. Essentially, this is a small pull-off outside of town where the train disembarks and embarks cruise ship passengers. While the train did arrive slightly late, we were able to make up time as we railed southbound toward Whittier. Seated in car 6, our host Brianna was a bright and cheery guide on this final leg of our land portion. Along the journey, we were able to relax and enjoy the views, accompanied by a few Alaskan beers and snacks along the way. The last hour or so from Anchorage into Whittier is really the most scenic. As we hugged the Turnagain Arm, we passed mountains, glaciers, and other beautiful autumn landscapes. However, still no major wildlife sightings. While you are allowed to move from train car to train car during this train ride, unfortunately there are no outdoor viewing platforms on the rail service from McKinley. Only trains from Denali, which is approximately 9.5 hours, offer outdoor viewing platforms. One nice feature is that the train picks up Princess Cruises staff before arriving in Whittier. That way you actually complete your check-in process and receive your medallions while you're on the train. That means you can head directly to security and then on the ship upon arrival. Sapphire Princess was docked at Whittier Cruise Terminal and was a welcome sight when we arrived just before 7:30 p.m. At 115,000 gross tons, the 20-year-old 18-deck Sapphire Princess is a good choice for an Alaskan cruise. The ship boasts several outdoor viewing platforms and spaces at the top of the ship. It also has an open-air promenade on Deck 7, offering partially sheltered viewpoints. Guests can get all the way forward on Deck 8 for covered views from the bow as well, or guests can head all the way forward on Deck 15 for a bird's eye view. Along with plenty of outdoor rail space for scenic sailing and glacier viewing, Sapphire Princess also has a Skywalker Lounge aft on Deck 18. This nightclub doubles as an indoor observation lounge overlooking the ship's wake during the day. For a ship of its size and age, we were surprised by all the features and amenities. The 2-story indoor conservatory is home to a pool, whirlpools, and a bar, which were great when the weather outside was not cooperating. Not to mention there's a central pool on Deck 14, adults only pool on Deck 15, and a terraced aft infinity pool on Deck 12. Or you could upgrade to the Sanctuary on Deck 15 to enjoy a semi-private sun deck with scenic Alaskan vistas as the backdrop. Sapphire Princess also features a Lotus Spa with heated stone loungers, saunas, steam rooms, and other unique experiences, along with a fitness center and an outdoor sports court. With 5 different dining rooms, guests can opt for traditional dinner times or more flexible options. Regardless of the dining room, all guests enjoy the same rotational menu. This menu includes new selections each night, along with standard princess favorites. Honestly, we were pleasantly surprised by the food in the main dining room. Some of the standout dishes were the pork belly, the land and sea, which is the surf and turf, and the nightly pasta specials. Guests seeking local cuisine will not want to pass up on the crab cake or roasted duck, among other delicious options. This is all part of Princess Cruises' North to Alaska program. Of course, you need to sample some baked Alaska for dessert as well. Although I'm more a fan of the cheesecake, which changes flavors every night. We tended to eat in the Savoy dining room, where guests with pre-made reservations can enjoy a guaranteed seat at reserved times. The dining service team of Robert and Vivek was outstanding, as was the host, Joby. Additional dining options on Sapphire Princess include some of the best pizza at sea at Alfredo's Pizzeria on Deck 5. We couldn't help dining here on multiple occasions, including on the first night of the cruise. It was a perfect option for a low-key dinner after a long day of traveling from lodge to the ship. Sabatini's Italian Trattoria and Churrascaria are the specialty venues on the ship, and they did not disappoint. We had the Princess Premier package, which includes unlimited casual and specialty dining, so we made sure to test out both venues. I was impressed with the Brazilian steakhouse. The venue featured a wide variety of cuts of meat and a fully loaded salad bar, even featuring sushi. It was one of the most filling meals I've ever had on a cruise ship. While our previous dining experiences at Sabatini's have been hit or miss, this round hit all the high notes. With al dente pasta bolognese and a tender ossobuco, it was a classic Italian-American dinner. Like other Princess ships, the Horizon Court Buffet is open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's also poolside burgers and fries at the Trident Grill and freshly made pizza by the slice at Prego Pizzeria. With so many options, we never went hungry. Not to mention the International Cafe serves up great snacks along with espresso-based beverages, and you can't pass up the cookies here either. Princess Cruises is known for its onboard enrichment when sailing in Alaska. Yes, part of the North to Alaska program includes regional dishes, along with locally produced beers, wines, and spirits. But the true highlight is usually the onboard lectures and presentations. Our onboard naturalist hosted a few talks on the wildlife of Alaska and glaciers. She also narrated scenic sailing on 2 occasions, including one afternoon where we spotted 8 humpback whales sailing alongside the ship. There was also a few guest lecturers. Photographer Daryl Peterson offered a talk on photography in Alaska, focusing on the Northern Lights. Storyteller W.R. Cozy offered a fun and interactive talk on surviving the gold rush. Perhaps the winner for most guests was the Puppies in the Piazza. This included a Q&A session from the 2023 Iditarod winner, Ryan Reddington. The session also featured 2 8-week gold Alaskan Huskies. For us, this program is what sets Princess Cruises apart from other cruise lines. Outside the North to Alaska events, Cruise Director Drew and Activities Manager Sierra made sure to keep everyone entertained with various trivia, game shows, and cruiser competitions. There were daily guest first officer challenges in the Piazza. The Explorers Lounge was home to a nightly game show, like The Perfect Couple and everyone's favorite Marriage Match game show. There were a variety of musical acts as well, including piano music and crooners, live band in the Piazza, plus a guitarist and duos in the Wheelhouse Bar. Club Fusion was also in activities like bingo and comedy, with 2 different comedians featured during our sailing. In addition, it also doubled as the ship's karaoke bar. The main theater was home to 3 production shows. The ship's cast of singers and dancers performed Do You Want to Dance?, Bravo, and Let Me Entertain You. Traditional cruisers will feel right at home on Sapphire Princess, with dinner, a game show, and a main theater show all lined up most nights of the cruise. Of our 6 previous Alaska cruises, 2 of them have been with Princess. In fact, just a few years ago, we sailed southbound on Majestic Princess on the same itinerary. Being the last cruise of the season, we knew the weather could impact the trip, and unfortunately, it did. Just one of the risks of cruising during shoulder season in Alaska. This 7-night cruise typically involves 2 glacier viewing days, one of Hubbard Glacier and another day in Glacier Bay National Park. Then the ship spends full days in Skagway, Juneau, and Ketchikan, with 1 sea day at the end en route to Vancouver, British Columbia. On morning of day 2, we learned that due to forecasted windy weather and rough seas, the ship was going to forego sailing Yakutat Bay and the Hubbard Glacier. Instead, we need to head to sheltered waters and await our day 3 arrival time slot into Glacier Bay. This was disappointing as the weather actually turned out to be sunny and mild most of the afternoon, which would have made for great Hubbard Glacier viewing, but this was honestly the calm before the storm. Later in the cruise, Mother Nature would further alter the ship's path. Again, strong winds and stormy conditions impacted the ship's ability to call into Juneau on day 5. And indeed, the seas were very rough and stormy this morning as well. But through it all, the captain and crew of Sapphire Princess kept all the passengers safe and happy with a variety of activities and events throughout the voyage. Plus, we were able to still salvage the other ports of call with some exciting excursions and scenic cruising in Glacier Bay National Park. Surviving the rocky weather the day before, it was smooth sailing into Glacier Bay National Park. Picking up the park rangers before 9 a.m., we had a full day of exploring the natural wonders of this area. Although we visited the park a few times before, each experience remains unique. The ship's path and day schedule are typically the same, but each park ranger brings his or her own perspective. Ranger Rianne gave a presentation on the park's unique geography, wildlife, and flora to a packed main theater. Throughout the remainder of the day, she provided shipwide narration as we glided through the peaceful waters. While it was gray and rainy, the visibility was decent. Thus, we were able to catch views of the Grand Pacific Glacier, the Marjorie Glacier, Lamplugh Glacier, and Johns Hopkins Glacier. Having missed most of the embarkation day, followed by day 2 detour, this visit into Glacier Bay National Park was just the reset we needed. So what could be better than one encounter with Alaskan Husky puppies in a day? Well, 2 chances to interact with these adorable creatures. With over 12 hours in Skagway, Heidi and I opted to book the Mushers Camp and Sled Dog experience in Daiya through the cruise line. Like anything in Alaska, getting to our destination was half the fun. The scenic ride took us by bays and up the side of a mountain on a Unimog. This large off-road vehicle was the only way the tour group could get to the camp, where plenty of Alaskan Huskies were waiting for us. The sled dog experience started with a 1-mile ride on a summer sled. It was exhilarating even while getting pelted with rain. Our guide masterfully ensured her team navigated the muddy terrain with our 4-person sled. After the ride, we were able to meet the lovable team. But the biggest highlight for most was getting to meet even more Huskies down at base camp. Here you get to interact with dogs at all stages of their career, from 9-year-old retired Huskies to 8-week-old pups. We had about an hour to learn more about these animals and even hold some puppies. From our outgoing tour guide Victor to the musher and other trainers, this tour was informative, fun, and very well executed. Heidi and I have been very fortunate over the years to experience a lot of the bucket list tours and shore excursions in Alaska, from glacier walks and helicopter rides, to float plane sightseeing tours, and bear watching expeditions. We've covered a lot of ground. This time around, we decided to try one of the most popular shore excursions in Ketchikan, the Bering Sea Crab Fisherman's Tour. Booking this tour with our partners at Shore Excursion Group, we boarded the Aleutian Ballad for a 3-hour tour that is unlike anything else. For fans of the show The Deadliest Catch, this tour offers a chance to set sail on the infamous vessel featured in Season 2. But for me, the real charm came from listening to the stories of Captain David, Dave, and Ron. These Bering Sea fishermen have decades of experience, as well as tall tales to tell. Their personal narratives are intricately woven into the fishing demonstrations and the hands-on activities. Yes, this is an opportunity to interact with some of the marine life and plenty of time for photo ops and questions. After all, who doesn't want to hold a box crab or a starfish? The live fishing and crabbing demonstrations, all from the comforts of the heated amphitheater, are conducted in the protected waters of a local indigenous clan. Therefore, the crew of the Aleutian Ballad is able to showcase experiences that other tour boats can't offer in the US waters. Of course, a trip out to sea on a crabbing vessel wouldn't be complete without some fresh crab as a snack. Of course, we love visiting Alaska and highly recommend Alaska cruising to essentially anyone we talk to. But if you're considering Alaska cruise tour, it's important to realize that even though it's a princess operation, the experience does differ quite a bit from a cruise. Some things you need to keep in mind. Every lodge is unique, but they are generally more rustic with fewer amenities than cruise ships. You'll spend quite a bit of time on buses transiting from one lodge to the next, or going from your lodge to excursions, whether they're included or optional. Food is not included at the lodges, and your ship packages don't work on the land portion either. So sorry, that drink package is not redeemable at the lodges, but the cruise line does offer a meal plan that you can redeem at the lodges. There is a lot of packing and unpacking, along with placing luggage outside early in the AM, several mornings of the land portion. Wildlife sightings are not guaranteed and may not be as abundant as you think. Some tours are included, but you can also book additional tours, so budget accordingly. There's a lot of different cruise tour options. Decide on the length and how many lodges you want to cover during the land portion. Based on our experience, we would consider staying at fewer lodges, but staying at those lodges longer so you get to experience the amenities at each lodge as well as the surrounding areas. Carefully consider if you prefer the land portion before or after the cruise. We would definitely recommend before based on our experiences, but everyone's preferences are different. Pace yourself and don't overschedule the land portion. or you'll definitely end up exhausted. But a Princess Cruise Tour is perfect if you're a nature lover and want to explore more of the interior of the state. Now, if you've already cruised to Alaska and you want to try something different, a Princess Alaska Cruise Tour might be perfect for you. Of course, you need to have the extra vacation time and budget, as these are usually 10 days plus in length. And if you want to do and see as much as possible on a trip without worrying about all the logistics, well, then this is perfect for you. But before you book, tap or click on our Alaska Cruise Tours Insider Tips and Tricks video. This brand new video details everything we wish we knew before we took our Princess Cruises Alaska Cruise Tour. That way you'll have the insider knowledge and be one step ahead of everyone else on board, and your Alaska Cruise Tour will be smooth sailing.